is the 2 p.m. show, and on today's show, the striker. What striker will Ruben Amorim buy in the summer? And what is the truth? 1 minute we're getting told it's Victor Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen. The next minute it's budget striker options. What is the truth around what Manchester United's budget will be for the summer and what striker we will be going for? It's looking like is going more towards the budget striker route. But Sir Jim's coming out in interviews saying that we've got no money. Apparently the club would be broke by December if he hadn't have come in. But then we're spending summer transfer windows and we're going to be investing into the summer. Which one really is it? Christian Eriksen's set to leave in the summer. We already knew that, to be honest with you. But a big thing that's coming out is a statement from the 1958 Backlash to the ticket price rises by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS and the Glazers. You've got to include the Glazers into that because they are the majority shareholders of Manchester United and what this means for the fan base. I'm going to have my say on that. I am a season ticket holder. I got the email through yesterday and I have some thoughts that I want to get into the show. But get your comments in. Also some stuff coming out from Manuel Ugarte as well on Aiden Heaven and Bruno Fernandes. Thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get straight into it. So let's get into the striker stuff because this came out from Rob Dawson, which I found very interesting. A lot of it we already kind of know. But it is confusing as a Manchester United fan when 1 minute Sky Germany is saying that we're going to go for Victor Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen, and then the next minute we're looking at more budget striker options, younger strikers, which we're often told we want to go down the younger route, but we do need some experience in that position. We've gone down the younger route multiple times before, and it's shown that we need some experience to help them younger players that we've already got in Joshua Zirkzee, in Rasmus Højlund. But Rob Dawson says signing a striker will be one of Manchester United's priorities in the summer window. The club are busy drawing up their lists, but much of it will depend on what kind of money they can bring in from outgoing transfers. United have been clear that there will be money to spend regardless whether they're in the European competition next season. The question is, though, how much? Without Champions League football, the budget is going to be limited. Manager Ruben Amorim has gone as far as saying that you'll have to let players leave before they can bring anyone in. Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Johnny Evans will all leave, but that's not going to dial in too much in terms of the budget. What would change the situation significantly is if money coming in from an academy graduate, whether it's Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho or Kobbie Mainoo, that will boost the funds and it will put players like Victor Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen back on the table. Everything at Manchester United is up in the air. And this is why we couldn't move on Giovanni Quander. Because at the moment, Manchester United are in a position where we have to sell to buy players. We have to let players go before we can invest in players coming in. So Quander's signing for Chelsea. We can't do that deal because the transfer window hasn't opened yet. We can't pre-sign players the way that Chelsea have. It's a big reason why we lost out on Quander, who was a huge transfer target for Manchester United. I know Mark covered on the morning show this morning, Sky Germany throwing Kobbie Mainoo's name into the list of potential outgoings. Alejandro Garnacho or Kobbie Mainoo will leave the football club in the summer, in my opinion. I think it's the only way that we're going to have a big enough budget to invest into Amorim the way that he needs to be invested into, and we need to go and get in players. It's his first summer transfer window. You have to go and get in players. And in my opinion, I do think you can scout well. Aiden Heaven for £1 million, what a purchase he looks like. It's early doors, don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he looks like a fantastic purchase and we need to do more of that. £1 million for Aiden Heaven. He's looking on a similar level to Lenny Yoro. And that's not a disrespectful comment to Lenny Yoro because Aiden Heaven looks good, Lenny Yoro looks good, but we paid near enough £60 million for Lenny Yoro. So that was a really good coup from Manchester United. Patrick Dorgu looks like a good investment right now. But you also need to ensure that you're bringing first teamers in that are going to start in this starting 11 and they're going to definitely improve the quality of Ruben Amorim's starting 11 and go and invest in his players. We might get into the Champions League. I still think we'll have to sell to buy. But that's where we're at on the striker situation at the moment. It could vary from Gyökeres and Osimhen to a more budget option. And the budget options look to be Jonathan David. I mean, how often have we been linked to him? But a new name that has come up that I wanted to bring into the show, which is someone we could definitely go for because multiple sources have spoken about this now, in particular Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany, is Hugo, let me get his name right, Hugo Ekitike. I think that's how you say it, Hugo Ekitike, that's what I'm going with. I'm going to call him Hugo for the rest of the show. French striker, young striker, 22 years old, tall. I think he's 6'2", I was reading earlier. And so far this season for Frankfurt in the Bundesliga, 25 games, 13 goals and 4 assists. Expected goals 17.5, goal creating actions 9, minutes played 1,870. So his stats look really good. But again, it's another young striker. It's 22 years old. He did play with Marmouche at Frankfurt. They had a really good relationship. He looks exciting. His numbers are good. But again, it's taking a risk on another young striker. And for me personally, we also got linked to Benjamin Sesko as well. That I think he's going to be expensive. I think Hugo Ekitike will be more in our budget. Jonathan David, we know we'd be able to bring him in. But are they really the first choices that Ruben Amorim wants? We have to go and get some first choices. And not every position you're going to be able to get your first choice. Patrick Dorgu wasn't first choice. Nuno Mendes was first choice. And you can kind of see why he was first choice when he played against Liverpool for PSG. But you've not always got the budget in every position. You've got to put a plan together where it's like, for example, right wing back, maybe we don't have to get our top choice because there's other good options and we've also got players coming through the academy in that area. But I'm looking at the striker. We have scrimped and saved on the striker position multiple times and it's not worked out for us. I know Harry Kane was a bit of a pipe dream, but that was the first choice that year. And Højlund was a good option, but it never should have been 72 million. And we ended up going 72 million on Højlund, Harry Kane probably would have been 100. Then the year after you got Joshua Zirkzee and he was around 34. If you would have put that money together, you could have just had Harry Kane. And it doesn't have to be Harry Kane, for example. But we have scrimped and saved on the striker multiple times before and it's not paid off. We need to invest in a striker for the long term that has some experience under the belt and is ready to take on the challenge of leading the line for Manchester United and can score at least 20 goals a season. We've not done that. We have to do that. And that's an area where I don't think we can afford to scrimp and save and I don't think we can afford to take risks on. Hugo Ekitike, just from looking at him, he looks like it's promising. He looks like he's got a bit about him. It's that type of striker that's kind of becoming there's always kind of a new trend in football, a new modern trend. And I look at Hugo and it's that trend of tall strikers, slim physique, can run with the ball, can carry the ball, kind of like a Alexander Isak. Obviously, Alexander Isak is in a league of his own. Victor Boniface, he's another one. I kind of thought that's what we were getting with Joshua Zirkzee, and he can run with the ball, and he's good with the ball at his feet. Doesn't get around the pitch as much as I would like, although he was getting down the wing really well, Joshua Zirkzee, the other day. Needs to be better in front of goal, obviously, but them tall strikers that can carry the ball well, that's where Hugo fits into that bracket. And he does look like a good prospect, but I want to go for someone who's assured. I want to go for someone that I know if we get him, he is coming into this team and he's taking that team up levels and he's going to score us goals for Manchester United. That's where I think we've got to go for. Backlash says he flopped at PSG. He did flop at PSG, but he's gone to Frankfurt and done really, really well, to be fair to him. Like I've said this before, just because a player's been a flop somewhere else doesn't mean they're going to be a flop for the rest of their career. And I stand by that. Look at how many players have come to Manchester United, flopped, and then gone to other clubs and done really well. Look at Ugarte, didn't really do very well at PSG. He's come to Manchester United and looks one of our better players, first name on the team sheet. I get it, it's like a 14th place Manchester United side, but still, he's still made a really good impact here at Manchester United. He was fantastic at Sporting. Odegaard didn't make it at Real Madrid. He's done really well at Arsenal. There's multiple examples where a player can flop at a club and then can do well at another club. It's all about environment, the style, the manager, how you fit into that team. So I wouldn't read too much into that. What I would read into is the fact that it's another young striker that is probably going to be lower on the budget, but actually isn't someone that I'd be at the top of Amorim's list, and we need to invest in our manager and back him massively. But yeah, he's fast, he's tall. I mean, he was getting up to speeds of Jeremy Frimpong levels in the Bundesliga, so something to look at, and it is an exciting prospect, but it's just, I'm looking for absolutely top tier in that striker position going into the summer, and that's where my loyalties lie. But for that, we're going to have to sell players and we're going to have to bring money in. I was watching Goldbridge's morning show this morning, and I seen the Kobbie Mainoo stuff come out, and honestly, the amount of comments I've had of people saying to me that I treat Mainoo and Garnacho differently. I see it on all the videos that I've been doing recently, and I saw him on the 2 p.m. show yesterday, because I said I'd be open to selling Garnacho if it meant we were going to get an Mbeumo in or a Cunha, someone who I knew would be a better starting 10 than what Garnacho is. I'd be open to doing that. And again, I got comments saying, you always say you'd sell Garnacho, but you wouldn't sell Mainoo. Like, the very similar players. Like, why would you not sell Mainoo? And I've answered this before, I feel like, but I'll speak about it again. I understand the argument that Mainoo's not got a solidified position in this Amorim system either. I understand that argument. For me, Mainoo is a generational talent. Like, I do believe that. He is an absolute baller. Alejandro Garnacho is a good player that has potential, but I don't think his potential is as high as Kobbie Mainoo's. That's just from watching them, just on the eye test. That's my personal opinion. Garnacho doesn't have a nailed down position in the Amorim system. I think if it's competing at the top level, he's looking like he's improving right now, but the standards are low. Kobbie Mainoo doesn't have a confirmed position in the Amorim system either. I was thinking about this. Is he going to be a number 10? Can he get around the pitch enough to be a number 10? He looked good when he did it against FCSB, but you've got to do it against more teams than FCSB, don't you? Let's be honest. He got injured at an unfortunate time where he was just kind of getting into that 10 position. As a deeper midfielder, I'm not so sure, because that's where I thought his best position was. But then Amorim said when he played in the 10, he was so much more free because he didn't have to do as much of the defensive work, and that's where he struggles in the defensive transition. And Amorim requires runners. He requires people that are able to get around the pitch, and can Mainoo really do that? That's one of the weaknesses to Mainoo's game, is his ability to get around the pitch. But he's so good on the ball. He's so technically gifted, and he is an absolute baller. So maybe this is me, kind of wanting something to happen that isn't going to happen, but I would like to see how Mainoo does progress in that 10, because I don't think he's had a fair crack of the whip. Like, I don't think I've seen him enough in that position for me to say, oh yeah, he's definitely not going to be a 10 in Amorim's system, because I've seen it for like 1 or 2 games even, where I've seen Alejandro Garnacho play for Ruben Amorim in the 10 role game after game after game after game, and I just don't see him ever getting to the level that we need in that position. I don't see it happening. I think he can be a great impact player off the bench, but I don't see him competing in the Champions League places towards the top of leagues in an Amorim system in that position, and I don't see him as a wing-back either. Mainoo, I think he's got the ability to be anything he wants to be, because I think he's that good. Can he be a number 10? I'd have to see it more before I fully make my decision on him. But 2 of them players, both of them, could leave Manchester United this summer. Don't think they should, and I don't think that's right. And I don't think as a club we should be in the position where that has to happen. But it might have to for PSR and to invest in Ruben Amorim. And that is massively on the ownership of this football club for getting everything so badly wrong that we've been pushed and pigeonholed into this position where we're going to have to probably sell one of, if not both, our academy products that have looked super promising. But Amorim's system is different to Erik ten Hag's. Mainoo and Garnacho looked like the best players in Ten Hag's system. In Amorim's system, they're both struggling to maybe find a nailed down spot. However, they've both got a lot of talent. For me personally, I think Mainoo's generational, and it's something you've really got to look at moving forward into the future, is where they're going to fit and where they're going to go. I think Amorim would ideally like to keep both, but I think if you said to him, you're going to have to sell to get in a player that's really going to kind of fit you and going to, be, Amorim's picks. He's only transferred so far at Aidan Heaven and Patrick Dorgu. He needs his picks coming in. That's what's going to be talked about, and he'd probably go for that. Who's it going to be? I don't know. I think a lot of people think it's going to be Garnacho. It might be Mainoo. I think the fan base would be in uproar, to be honest with you, if Mainoo ended up going in the summer, but I wouldn't write it off. I honestly wouldn't write it off. Garner says, Mainoo is showing signs of being injury prone. Really? I don't think he's showing signs of being injury prone. He's had a couple injuries, yeah, but I don't think he got played. Do you know what he's showing signs of? Being overplayed at a young age. He got played and played and played and played and played last season under Erik ten Hag when he got back from injury. Like game after game after game, 90 minutes after 90 minutes. It was his first season last season. He's a young kid. Like, he's still young. He's still 19. Kobbie Mainoo is 19 years of age. I think that's what happened. I don't think he's injury prone. Rob Always United says, Beth, do you think the thing about Kobbie leaving could be spin from his agents to worry United into giving him a good contract? I'm not sure, because what I've heard is that the stuff around Kobbie wanting like 200 grand a week isn't true. That's what I've heard. But I've also heard that Kobbie wants to stay at the club. I don't know what to believe. I think different parties put different stuff out there for each benefits. Again, I think United should be giving Mainoo a new contract, but I think 180, 200 grand a week is too much. I think around 120 mark is where he should be at, which is similar to Lenny Yoro, because that's where he's at in the squad right now. He's a similar kind of stature as a Lenny Yoro, a younger player, but he's a senior player that he's playing the majority of games, but not all the games. Let me see if there's any more chats coming in here. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about there. I'll bring more of your comments in a second. Strikers, if you want to get a budget striker in, you might be able to keep a Mainoo or a Garnacho. If you want to go and get a Victor Osimhen or a Gyökeres, you might have to say goodbye to one of them players. And as a fan base, we shouldn't be in that position. But that's where we might be at, and it's unfortunate. And speaking on that, I want to talk about the ticket stuff, the ticket backlash coming in from the 1958, and I completely understand where they're coming from. I mean, the email I got, which I'm sure a lot of you have read as a season ticket holder, we understand that many... sorry, let me read this again. The email I got is, we understand that any price rise is unwelcome, especially during a period of underperformance on the pitch, and we listened carefully to the strong arguments put forward by our fans advisory board in favour of a freeze. However, the club has decided that it would be irresponsible to keep prices unchanged while costs rise as the club continues to lose money. Again, you talk about losing money, and you talk about Sir Jim's spoken about in interviews the inflation, and that's why we're going to have to put ticket prices up because of inflation. We're losing money because of terrible decisions that this ownership that you're working with in the Glazers have bled the club dry for over a decade and made terrible footballing decisions. They have not put a penny into the football club, and they have took money out. If they would actually just put money into the football club, we would be in a much better position. Instead, billionaires that have run this club into the ground and bled it dry and used it as a cash cow are still not having to put any money into the football club, whilst the match-going fan that supports this club week in, week out, working class, the majority of us, are having to go and pay extra and pay more. And again, go into our own pockets to fund... Apparently, the fact that we are going to lose money, run out of money in December if it wasn't for Sir Jim, we are broke. So the match-going fan is having to put more of their hard-earned money in when we've done nothing but support the club, buy tickets, support the team. After an underperforming season, an underwhelming season, where honestly, a lot of the fans should have been paid to go to Old Trafford, we're having to pay more money because of inflation and because the club isn't sustainable. Let's say it how it is. The club isn't sustainable because it's been poorly ran for years upon years upon years, with owners that have bled it dry and not put a penny in. And the match-going fans having to pay for that. I don't agree with it. And inflation as well. I mean, it's not as if tickets were cheap. Tickets are massively expensive. You're looking at 800, 900 quid for an average season ticket in Manchester United. And you're talking about inflation as a reason to put it up. Inflation in the UK... it's 2% rise. You're putting the tickets up by 5%. So if you actually were going off inflation, you would have put the ticket prices up by 2%. You've put them up by 5%. That's more than what the UK inflation is. So it's frustrating. I understand why there is backlash, and I'm not buying into all of these excuses. I get we're in a really bad financial position. I'm not saying that's a lie. That's 100% the truth. We are in a terrible financial position. But look at the mirror test. The mirror test is, we are in a terrible financial position because of the people you're working with in the Glazer family. That's why. That's why. And the match-going fan are having to pay for that. And the way that they spin it frustrates me, to be honest with you. The Glazers have not put any money into this football club, and they're billionaires. You know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a billionaire. I know he's put money in, but where's that money gone? Them hundreds of millions have dwindled very quickly. It's the match-going fan, it's the working class that are having to pay for it, and it isn't right. But let me read out the statement from the 58. So they have put out there, ticket price increases by stealth and the systematic marginalisation of fans. Yesterday, the club announced that ticket prices for next season. The fact that ticket prices were not frozen and the club did not follow the precedent set by other Premier League clubs is really disappointing, especially after serving up one of the worst teams in decades. We have campaigned tirelessly with the FSA and in collaboration with other like-minded fan groups to ensure the club know fan sentiment on ticket prices. Without this action, who knows what the club would have done otherwise. And I agree with that, because they're saying that they've chosen to do a 5% increase with listening to the fan advisory board and with listening to fan stance. And the fan stance was to freeze ticket prices, because look at what the other Premier League clubs have done. Look at our position on the pitch. Look at what Manchester United fans are having to go through. And they said they've listened to that and still chosen to up it by 5%. So what would it have been if we didn't campaign so hard for them to be frozen? They then go on to say, disappointing the club didn't freeze ticket prices for next season in line with other Premier League clubs. There are some stealth rises for our seniors facing effectively 57% increases on next season, our most loyal generational fans who have supported the club for decades. Exec club increased by 20%, the increase of 15% in car parking across the board. Category pricing for members, we announced long ago that dynamic pricing was coming after we had confirmed by a source. Additional stringent measures being enforced by the club. We are supporting the club, but we love not applying for a mortgage. Attendance guidelines have increased 16/19. This was only supposed to be implemented with supporting data. To our knowledge, this has not been provided by the club. The fans are now directly paying for years of Glazer greed and generational damage they have caused to our club and our fan base. And that is come from the 1958. And I think what they've highlighted there in the effect that this is going to have to the senior age group, the most loyal supporters of Manchester United that have been through the club through thick and thin. It's really not nice to see. And I'm a younger fan. You know, I'm a younger fan that has had a season ticket for a few years now, but there's some people that have been going for 20 plus years that are being affected by this, and it's sad to see. The last thing that they put out there was, these are all stealth increases to change the optics of 5% increase across all season ticket holders. Again, penny-wise and pound foolish. This is the first phase of reducing the amount of season ticket holders. We have always campaigned that the club are trying to marginalise match-going fans, cutting the 50% OAP concession to 25% for those who had it is a total disgrace. This also paves the way for there never being any new season tickets issued now. Why would they do this if they are increasing non-season ticket prices by more? It is also a stay of execution to put them up to whatever they want if we ever have to move to a new stadium. We also reiterate our views on the fans forum and the FAB. This is what we spoke to the club at length about. The system needs a revision to be more democratic and accountable to fans. This is not an attack on current members of these forums, but a lens on fundamentally flawed process of appointment to these forums. We will be campaigning for this to change. We want a custodian of the club that puts fans first, cares about this once great institution. Instead, we have a club that is crumbling beneath our feet, and we are expected to foot the bill for 20 years of Glazer decay and damage. The elephant in the room is and always has been Glazer debt. The club's losses include a 35 million payment to this service. Your debt is not ours. So that is the 1958's statement on the ticket prices. Again, huge backlash, and I understand everything that they are saying. I understand, you know, certain fan groups maybe don't like the channel and have made that clear before, but I will never stop campaigning for what I think is right. And what they are putting out there is absolutely right. I do think the match-going fans are being marginalised. I do think we're starting to cater towards an audience that is going to bring in more money for the club in terms of tickets and spend on the club. Even hearing Sir Jim Ratcliffe talk about the stadium, I mean, if you watched my interview with Rob Dawson, you would have seen this. They did the stadium unveiling of the plans in London. They did it in London and not Manchester. We're Manchester United. Why was that not done in Manchester? Again, not catering to, the match-going fan. And I'm not, obviously, anyone from anywhere can be a fan of Manchester United. I'm a huge advocate of that. Whether you live outside Old Trafford or in Timbuktu, be a Man United fan from wherever. Every Man United fan deserves the same voice and should have their opinions heard on the club and be treated the same. I get that. But look at what the club was built upon. And first of all, like I said, you're doing the stadium unveiling in London, not in Manchester, I don't know why. Next of all, you're talking about it being like the Eiffel Tower and having people come to visit with it just to take a picture with it. And it's like, I want a new stadium. I want a state-of-the-art stadium. But I want a new stadium that has the heart of the match-going fan at its core. I don't want the new stadium. I don't want the drive behind it to be, how do we get people from, that aren't even really interested in Manchester United to just come to it as like a tourist attraction. I don't want that. I want it to be, people want to come and visit Old Trafford for Manchester United. People want to come and visit Old Trafford to go and watch the team that they love, whether that's from Australia, whether that's from France, whether that's from Spain, whether it's from anywhere, all over the world. Come watch Manchester United because you know what it's been built upon and you know the history of the club and you're a Manchester United fan. That's where I want it to come from. And I don't know, it just feels as if we're kind of losing what this club was built upon, and it's frustrating. And I know people say, Beth, it's a ticket increase of 5%. Maybe you're going a bit over the top, but it's just everything's adding up, and you kind of lose sight of, do you recognise the club? And that's what I've been kind of battling with recently. Performances on the pitch are improving. I will always support Manchester United. I love the team. And if the team needs improvements, I'm massively behind Ruben Amorim. I always want Manchester United to be successful. And I absolutely hope and pray that Sir Jim Ratcliffe does turn Manchester United around and things do get massively better on the pitch and they are successful with it, because I want what's best for Manchester United. But so far, some of the excuses that they've used and the words that they've used and the statements they've put out, I think to myself, I'm like, do you think Manchester United fans are silly? Like, we can see through a lot of the excuses. Like, the running out of money by Christmas one was, why were we spending money in the summer transfer window then? If we were going to run out of money at Christmas, why were we investing in the summer transfer window? Like, if we really was going to run out of money, the club would have just had to been sold in its entirety. It wasn't the way that it was being made out in them interviews. But anyway, I'm going on and on here. Patrick Lynch says, there's a level of inconsistency from all of our players in the under-23s, which is expected. It's why we need experience. I won't be labelling any players with positions until Amorim has a proper pre-season. I do agree that there is some players in the academy that look really exciting and really promising that Ruben Amorim will definitely want to assess in the summer. He's been quite reluctant to use the youth. He's used, obviously, Harry Armas now. He's had his debut. Chido's had a few minutes here and there. But Amorim has got a track record of integrating youth and bringing youth through. He probably just doesn't want to integrate them into this season, which has been a car crash. He probably wants to integrate them in the right way, build the confidence. And I have no doubts in my mind he will look through the academy in the pre-season, and I would not be surprised to see some players getting an opportunity, because our academy is the bright spark of this football club. There's some really good players in there. Patrick Lynch says, I've done that one. Ronnie Dodge says, the Glazers won't put a single penny in for the new stadium. Maeve Rain says, frankly, comparing Manu to Garnacho is criminal because Manu is never around while Garnacho is always available. Availability is obviously a good attribute to have. I don't think Mainoo is never around. He's had a couple of injuries. It's not been like the end of the world. He's had a couple of injuries. I think people want to go 0 to 100 on stuff. Last but not least, to finish the show, I just wanted to bring in what Fabrizio Romano said about Christian Eriksen, and he said there is no doubts or change of plans for Christian Eriksen as he will leave Manchester United in July as a free agent. We already knew this. Christian Eriksen is going to go. It's not breaking news. Lindelof's going to go. Christian Eriksen's going to go. That's why Amorim's reluctant to use them. They're gone, and it'll free up some wages. And finally, you know, it's like how many transfer windows has Lindelof managed to avoid? Finally, we're going to start to trim the squad a little bit. It's important that we invest in good replacements that are going to contribute to this team moving forward. And sometimes, you know, players have left and we've got rid of them, and then we've gone and bought players that, again, just go into the category of they're going to need to be replaced in like a year or 2 years' time. We need to invest into players that are going to be here for the long haul and conserve a purpose under Ruben Amorim and compete. So I'm excited for the summer transfer window. To end it on a good note, I'm actually really excited for the summer transfer window. What budget we're going to have is yet to be revealed. Who we're going to sell is going to be massive, because we will sell a big player, I think. But will Rashford go to Villa? That's another big one. But the summer transfer window is going to be exciting, and I am excited to see how we move. I just hope it's a good one. So far, that's the only plus point I can have really for INEOS right now, is their transfer windows are looking pretty decent. Aiden Heaven and Dorgu, 2 good purchases. Up to now, they look like really good investments for good money. Ugarte, good signing. De Ligt, really good signing. Mazraoui, good signing. Joshua Zirkzee looking more confident and looking like a decent investment. Glennie Yoro, we know what his talent is and his ceiling is. So that's something to look forward to for the summer, to end on a positive note. Ronnie Dodge, Eriksen, he's going. Ricky is going to cry. Ricky will just go and fly to see him wherever he is next. He'll go and visit him at his next club. And Glenn C says, when you think the national minimum wage is only going up by 6.7%, a 5% increase is a lot. There is more than just going to a match than just the ticket. Yeah, I agree with you, Glenn. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Hit a like on the video if you've not already. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Dublin live show tomorrow. I cannot wait. Get your tickets if you haven't already. It's going to be a cracker. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.